Okay, so we're going to finish up Reconstruction today. Well, at least part of it, the big parts in the South. Where we left off before, we were talking about how things got started. We had the old slave labor system was out the door after the Civil War. We had to find a new way for the South to adapt. So the first thing we have is presidential reconstruction. President Johnson comes in, he says, hey, let's just get the Union back together, get the government in place, put the 13th Amendment into place, and we'll just call it good. Unfortunately, the Democrats, who still held power in the South, wanted to make life as difficult as possible for ex-slaves. So they enacted stuff like the Black Codes and fence laws to kind of keep Black people in a state of poverty. The government is going to see this and react to this, and they're going to institute what we call radical Reconstruction. This is where radical Republicans come in, and they're going to basically start over again, say, hey, we got to make new governments, and we're going to enact the 14th and 15th Amendment. All blacks are citizens, and all black men have the right to vote. And we're also going to disenfranchise about 10 to 15% of white voters. They're going to revoke pardons from people who got them under Johnson and the Confederate from the Civil War. And that's going to effectively shift the political landscape in the South. And Republicans are going to take power. Radical Republicans, that is. But now we're to the narrative of today. The Democrats are going to regain power, and they're going to hold on to that power until 1970 in the South. A long, long time. The question is, why? What happened to the radical Republicans? Well, three things happened. The biggest one, the most important one, is a little organization called the KuKluxKlan. Now, whatever you think of the Ku Klux Klan today, you have to understand that in the late 19th century, they were immensely powerful. I mean, we're talking about a group that wielded and wielded political power in the South like nobody's business. Now, who are the Ku Klux Klan? Well, basically, they're a vigilante group. They're made up of Democrats, a lot of them former Confederates, and they effectively become the terrorist wing of the Democratic Party. What does that mean? Well, basically, anywhere there's an election, they're going to show up, and they're going to make sure that the people who are not supposed to be voting don't vote. So let's say you have an election between a Republican and a Democrat. Who votes Republican? Scallywags, freedmen, and carpetbaggers. How do we make sure that, say, freedmen don't vote? Well, if you lynch one of these ex-slaves and hang out around the polls and let that body just hang on a tree right by the polls, that's going to terrify a lot of voters from voting in these elections. It's actually extremely effective. They are going to bring lynching to a whole new level in the United States. They are going to be responsible for thousands of lynchings over the next couple of decades. And it's going to basically allow them to use scare tactics to control elections throughout the South. Now, the scary thing about the Klan is that they're not an isolated group that's, say, lodged away in Tennessee where they were originally founded. They're going to be everywhere. They're going to be in Alabama, they're going to be in Mississippi, they're going to be in Georgia, they're going to be in all the southern states, and they're going to have chapters in every single city. If you are a white man in some little town in Mississippi, it's very probable that you're a member of the Klan. It's everywhere, and everyone seems to be a part of it. Now, pretty soon, the government's going to realize that the Klan has way too much power. And they're going to react to it by doing what we call the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871. Now, the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871, in all honesty, was too late. By the time 1871 rolls around, the Democrats almost have total control of the South, and the Klan is everywhere. But it's still very important because it's going to play a role in the 1960s when the Civil Rights Movement gets in the full swing. What does it say and what does it do? It says the infringement of civil rights is a federal crime. What does that mean? If you commit a hate crime, you will not be front of a jury of your peers. You will be in a federal court. Because if you're in front of a jury of your peers, and it's the late 19th century, and you're a member of the Klan, in all likelihood, there's going to be members of the Klan on that jury who are not going to, send you to prison or give you an execution. They're going to have your back. And that makes it all the more terrifying when you deal with the Klan, because you know that they're probably not going to get any justice for the lynchings that they would enact. Very important act, but the Klan's going to be too powerful by the time that it comes into play. It's worth mentioning the Colfax, Louisiana massacre. It's going to be after the act in 1873. It's a period where basically the Klan's going to lose it. Over 100 African Americans are going to die during this disputed election at the hands of the Klan. It's really going to seal their reputation as a terrorist organization. It was a very dark, dark chapter in the South's history. But they're not the only reason that Democrats are going to take power. There's also liberal Republicans. Now, liberal Republicans are going to be a different breed from the radical Republicans, almost polar opposites. They're going to believe in laissez-faire, that is to say, the invisible hand of the market. They are in the business of saying, hey, we don't really need government in our economy. Let's just let business, let's let industry do what it wants, grow how it wants. We believe that the invisible hand of the market will guide it, But this doesn't just apply to economic stuff. They believe little to no government in people's lives. We don't need the government telling us what to do. They're interested in big business. They're interested in money, So they pull away from supporting the rights of average people, aka they kind of look away from the South. All these issues about minorities and voting issues and things like wanting to have institutions for the mentally ill or child support taxes and stuff like that. That's not of any interest to liberal Republicans. They are in the business of supporting business, basically, and they want to make sure there's as little government interference as possible. These are the folks who are going to be responsible for getting land away from the railroads, giving out massive amounts of farmland in the West so that business can take hold and the American economy can flourish. Basically, they're not interested in the South. Okay? Last thing, these two, just so you know, are going to basically seal the Democrats in power, but this third one is going to be the nail in the coffin that will make sure Democrats stay in power all the way until the 1970s. Presidential election of 1876, it's a disputed election between Tilden and Hayes. Hayes is going to win even though he lost the popular vote. There was 20 disputed electoral college votes, and he's going to get them. Very controversial election. 1776, we're just about a decade after the Civil War. The nation almost tore itself apart, and he barely wins this election under very shady circumstances. He is quick to ease tensions. How's he going to ease tensions? Well, he agrees to remove troops from the South. And when he does that, that is the nail in the coffin. The KuKluxKlan is going to completely have control down there. Democrats are going to hold on to power for nearly a century. And there's not going to be interference of any kind from outsiders like radical Republicans for quite a while. So that's kind of the straw that breaks the camel's back. But it all leads me to say that Democrats are going to rule the South. Okay? And what do when they rule the South? Well, they basically reinstate the black codes. Okay? They do things like increase penalties for minor crimes. In Mississippi, if you steal something over $10, you have to serve a multi-year prison sentence. Now, that's pretty severe. The idea is, how can we reenact the old slave system to help propel the economy forward? Well, this is where we're going to get the convict leasing system. Very important idea. It's going to be kind of like the new version of slavery. So if you have these increased penalties for minor offenses, you suddenly have this massive prison population that's just exploded all over the place. What are we going to do with all these prisoners? Well, you can work them. You can basically sentence them to hard labor. And the convict leasing system, you could lease out prisoners to do work for very, very cheap, effectively slave labor. And of course, who are all these people who are convicts? Well, they're all usually minorities. This is also where we're going to get the chain gang system. Chain gangs are, everybody's chained up in that typical black and white striped fashion, and they're going to be working along roads, people passing by, seeing them and all that. It's part of the convict leasing system, but really what it's about is humiliation. This idea of the white officer lording over the black prisoners, watching them work. It's about humiliation, and it's definitely going to be systematic of the democratic rule. Now, this is where I'm going to stop this particular video, because I just want to let you know that the South is going to end with the Democrats in power. Is this the end of Reconstruction? Not really. We need to go into the populist movement before we can really kind of talk about the end of Reconstruction. But this is certainly a nice stopping point. In the next video, I'm going to talk about that populist movement and how it's going to interplay with all the stuff that's going on in the South. So, hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video.